An Amazonian heads back to her comic roots. Here's your look at the Hot Toys, the Justice League Wonder Woman comic concept version, Sideshow exclusive. Inspired by comic art from the early days, Sideshow and Hot Toys are delighted to present today the exclusive Wonder Woman comic concept version 6-scale collectible figure as a special release from their Justice League lineup. Beautifully crafted based on the appearance of Wonder Woman in Justice League, the figure features a head sculpt with real fabric hair and Wonder Woman's signature tiara in silver, an amazingly detailed red and gold costume with silver stars and navy blue scarf. Aside from the iconic battle suit, the figure also comes with a number of weapons and accessories, including an engraved sword, a shield, a pair of Wonder Woman's signature bracelets of submissions in silver, her lasso of truth, bullet sparkling effects attached to the bracelets, and a specially designed hexagonal figure stand. Before we look at some of the close-up details to the comic concept Wonder Woman, first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the figure actually stands, taking the tape measure to the very top of a stunning portrait of Gal Gadot. We're going to stop it right there. And according to the readout, you're looking at the figure of the comic concept Wonder Woman standing 12 inches exactly. Switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the figure almost being 30.5, more accurately 30.6 centimeters tall. Truthfully, I was always on the fence as to whether I wanted to add the comic concept version of Wonder Woman to my collection, having already owned the standalone Wonder Woman from Batman v Superman and the Justice League version of Wonder Woman, which shares the same mold as this one. Did I really need to go this route? Until then, of course, seeing images and a trailer of the '84 Wonder Woman where she bears somewhat a striking resemblance to these comic colors, it automatically made this one an instant pickup, and I found this one over on Zavvi's website. Don't worry, I'll provide the link down below. If you're in the market of adding this one to your collection as well, you can click the link down below. But before we do that, let's discuss some of the things that come included with the figure. Primarily, she comes with a hexagonal stand. It's very similar to the style of stands we usually get with the Sideshow collectible releases, right actually down to this style of neck has the adjustable cradle along the top. As you can see on the top there, you've got the Wonder Woman familiar logo, but was maybe not familiar before in previous releases, is the stars and stripes. Stars down below, and then red at least of the stripe done to the top. I like that it has a worn look to it, almost as if it's an old flag that was discovered. Really like the detailing that they've done to this piece. Of course, you've got Wonder Woman on the front. Omitted is a silver placard in favor instead of just simply printing Wonder Woman along the front here. What's interesting thing about this particular cradle, though, normally cradles go straight up and then proceed to curl from there. This one is rather different because it actually angles out, and then you've got the curve, in which, of course, that's going to support the majority of the figure's weight. It's very interesting the way that they've done that. Again, I really like the display base. Having owned the Justice figure releases, the Justice League ones that are slightly bigger, of course they're the rampway of the Flying Fox, it takes up a lot of space, doesn't it? This one automatically calls exactly what character this is the stand for, and it's small in size too, so it doesn't take up a lot of space either. And I did also say that this is technically a re-release of the one that we had gotten from Justice League. The proof is in the pudding, of course, and we can bring in the Wonder Woman that was released in the Justice figure release. Let me just straighten out her legs. There we go. Getting the two side by side compared, you can see. Let me just straighten out her feet. Feet are sometimes, there we go. Get the two standing side to side. Though there are a lot of things carried over, primarily the mold, primarily, of course, the costume that she wears. The colors are so distinctly different from one to the other, and even though it shares the same head sculpt for Gal Gadot, the colors are changed slightly, as well as the coloring of her skin, where looking at the two side by side, they look like completely different figures. Looking at the figure's accessories, and with that, we'll be also doing some comparisons with the accessories that came included with the previously looked at Wonder Woman. First, we'll start with the thing that changes, it seems, the most, and that is her shield. The shield has now been adorned with some gorgeous additional colors. We'll just now do the comparison of the one that came with the Justice League version of Wonder Woman. And you can see, while it does share a lot of the same mold elements, the paint is really what changes these and makes them so distinct from one another. Even the underside of the shield, of which she's going to be running her arms straight through, of course, the hook onto the side here, they are very different from one another. I kind of like this, to be honest. Of course, it does share the color scheme that she would have in the comics, but really loving the additional gold and the banding of blue and red and white that they've added to the shield. They still have given a slight age to it as well, so it doesn't look like a pristine shield either. I love these little cracks and discolorations to the red. It's a really nice touch. You can still also see the Themyscirian scripture around the outer area of the shield as well. That's a really nice touch. But again, like the shields themselves, when you look at them side to side, they haven't reinvented the wheel at all. In this case, they haven't reinvented the shields at all. They are the exact same, just painted slightly different from one another. Same thing really applies for also the sword. Here's the sword that comes included with the comic concept version, and here's the sword that came included with the Justice League version. Again, there's not that much that's been changed. In fact, I feel the changes are a little bit more stark when it comes to the shield as it does to the swords. The swords don't change too much. Even the hilt itself is a little just bit more gold on the comic concept version, whereas the color's a little bit more muted here on the Justice League release. As you can see, the two difference in the colors on the two hilts. But like I said, the blades don't change too much. If anything, you could probably say there's a slight little bit more of a bluish tint to the silver that you used for the blade, whereas the Justice League release almost has a slight more brownish color to the silver. You can really see it when you put the two blades side to side. Is there anything that's other than this different? No, it's simply just the paint that's been changed. And again, that seems to be the case across the board when we look at these accessories. The Lasso of Truth is essentially the same idea as well, woven and wrapped itself up. It's actually real wire, so you can actually manipulate and bend it if you want. For most of the time when it comes to displaying it, I've got a couple of other lassos that came in with the other previous Wonder Womans that I'm probably not going to be displaying this in the case where I want to unravel this. Unraveling it and certainly bending the wire frame, I feel like I'm never going to get back to it looking like this. Because obviously like this is the way that you can actually have it holstered on the side of her skirt. Simply just bring the arm up just out of the way, and there's a little magnetized closure. You just want to open this up, and then from there feed the lasso around. And then you just want to close it back up. The magnets again attached to themselves. Kind of hard actually when you got the arm in the way here, but we just bring this up, attach the two back together, and as you can see, it holds the lasso in place. Could you unravel this and put this to more of a dynamic, pose in her hands? Yeah, of course you could, but I never feel like you probably get it back in the way that it's intended. It's like taking the prizes out of old cereal boxes. You can take them out early, but you can never get the bag back in the back box properly. I feel like the same thing applies also for Wonder Woman's lasso here as well. The figure also gets these ricocheting bullet effects, which is a nice touch. We saw these also before with the earlier Wonder Womans also. They attach by the bracelets of submission. They simply just are magnetized. They attach, as you can see. They don't go anywhere. There's specific places where they attach. The same thing again on this side as well. You sort of have to move them around until you get the proper idea of where those magnets are attached. As I said, some of them you just again have to feed them around till you get, again, the proper, like there's one up there, and then there's one just down there. Sometimes while you are doing this, you'll see what I just did. The magnets are so strong that when you are putting them together, if you put them too close together, they are prone to, like I said, they're prone to coming together and sticking together. But that's basically the look that you get. It's nice, it's fine, and it's good. But as I'll talk about when it comes to the body of Wonder Woman, it's not a figure that you want to permanently pose with her arms bent specifically, because of course that's going to cause long-term damage to the skin that they used for the body. I was a bit surprised to see, actually, that she didn't come included with the charged up bracelets of submissions. But still, nonetheless, you could always use the one that you've got from the other figure and simply just slide the hands, pop the hands off, slide the bracelets off, and replace it with these ones if you want. I personally kind of like the idea of just displaying her with the bracelets that she has existing right now. But again, there's that option if you have the other Wonder Woman in your collection. course, the Wonder Woman will also come with a series of interchangeable hands as well. Currently in the socket's not the most exciting of hands. She comes with a pair of closed fists. I'm probably never going to be displaying her with those, but I just put those there for the time being. She also comes with a pair of relaxed hands. As you can see, some nice detailing done to the hands. The hands almost seem like a slightly darker color to the rest of her body, but because, again, she's got those bracelets kind of dividing the two, you don't see as much the color separation. Like if you look at the two, the hands look slightly darker than the rest of her body. That seems to be the case also with the fists, or really any of the hands that you decide to display her with. But she does also come with, like I said, those relaxed hands. Not bad if you're not going to be displaying her holding anything, but then if you want to be having her holding stuff, she comes with hands suited for holding the lasso of truth. A pair of hands, so one on either side. She comes with also a pair of gripping hands for holding like the sword on either side. And then she also comes with a hand for holding either the sword or the shield. For holding the shield can be a little bit more difficult. You're going to take the shield and basically whatever hand you decide to go with, let's choose this hand right here. Going to have to pry it away from itself, freeing it away from its palm. And then you sort of have to fit it around the handle like this. It's best, and even the instructions indicate as well, to feed this into her hand first, and then from there, take it and adjust it and add it to the peg that's located on her forearm. It's just a lot easier doing it that way. So like I said, she does come with a series of interchangeable hands, a good enough number of hands that you can display her in not only just the way that you're just looking at her right now, but you can also display her holding the weapons as well. The figure also comes with one last accessory, which I want to tread lightly on the idea of displaying her with it. And she does come included with her cape. The cape is nice because it does have a wire frame to it, so you can actually conform it to the shape of her torso when you are putting on her body. In order to do that, what you need to do is you need to grab the figure, get a good firm hold on her torso, and just remove the head from the ball joint. From there, then take the cape, and you want to just put the cape over top of her shoulders like this, and because, again, this is wire framed, you can just sort of fit it against her torso, sort of like that. And then from there, you're just going to go ahead and revisit the head, pop it in place. Now, one good thing, though, as the pros and the cons of it, the pros are that it does even further make it look different to the one that we'd gotten from Justice League. I like the idea that she has a nice flowing, it's almost like a gray-based blue. Really, really like the color that they use. And equally, I also like the material that they used as well. It is very, very soft, and it has a good weight when it drapes. And that's always one thing that's key when it comes to a successful cape. It has to be able to have enough weight to it that it has a natural falling drape to it. As you can see, it folds and wrinkles and kind of has the little flaps to the way that the cape naturally would fall. I do, again, feel like it's a good material that they used. The con, though, and here's the big problem with this, is the inevitable staining I feel like this material would cause if you had this on the figure all the time. Especially with this type of material that they used for her body, which is kind of like a rubbery material overlay covering over top of her joints. Something I'll talk about also later on. But this cape, the kind of dye I'm sure that they used, no doubt would probably find its way onto her skin. And when you eventually remove it, for example, you might find a similar footprint of where that cape actually was sitting on the figure. One sad example I have of this actually happening, I'll bring in the Batman v Superman Wonder Woman so that you guys can also see the difference between how the first Wonder Woman looked like versus the comic concept version. Now, from a distance, it may not look like there's anything wrong with this Wonder Woman until you start examining the area around her face. Remember this? This was the cloak that she wore over top in the film. Well, the Batman v Superman release also came included with this as well. Now, I did pack away this Wonder Woman when I did get the Justice League version because I didn't want to have so many on display. The plan was down the road as sort of expanded my collection display. I would probably bring this Wonder Woman back out. So I put her back in the box and didn't realize that I had had this sitting slightly on her face. And let me just show you what ended up happening here. Looking at the face sculpt, oh, it's so sad to see this. She's got now what looks to be almost a black eye, and she's got a smudge on her nose. Literally, this was sitting on her face just enough, thank goodness, not to stain for the rest of the body. The body is still fine. I don't have any stains on that. But she's got one little smudge, the one that stands out the most of the two, little smudge on the end of her nose. Now, I've looked online, and there are ways around fixing this, removing the stains on 6-scale figures. You can use like Clearasil cream, you know, the stuff they use for zits. You can put that on there, and you just like slightly heat it from a distance, and then you can kind of just continue to remove that. And eventually it probably will come off. So I'm not as devastated as you probably could think I would be based on the fact that I've stained the front of the figure. But again, I brought this in more as just a warning to any one of you out there that you want to really be careful when it comes to displaying the figures with fabric, because the fabric can also always stain either their bodies or their face. The same thing also was with the Jared Leto Joker. If anybody had that figure with the alligator purple jacket, it's notorious for staining the body. Why, again, I mentioned that is going back then to the comic concept version of Wonder Woman. It's nice that, again, she comes included with the cape, and the cape looks good and fine, and it does make her look separate and different from the rest. But again, my biggest problem is I hope that long term, this isn't going to develop a blue smudge right across her shoulders. While I do feel it would probably be easier to remove like the paint from her face, I feel like I would have a tougher time removing it from this rubber skin, as I feel like it's a lot more of a porous material and a lot harder to clean. As promised, here are the comparisons with the Justice League release Wonder Woman here on the left and the comic concept Wonder Woman here on the right. The expressions have not been changed, they are identical to one another. No, instead, the colors have been changed on things like the tiara and, more importantly, on the hair. For example, when we looked at the Justice League version of Wonder Woman, the tiara is primarily all gold, with only slight accents in silver, and the center star done in dark gray. When, however, we look then at the comic concept, they completely abandon the gold in favor of mostly all silver, with the center star done in red and only an outline done in gold. As I said, the hair is also very drastically changed too. I also feel like if looking at the two, she seems to have fuller hair in Justice League's release. It could simply just be the way that I've styled or lack thereof for her hair, but it seems like she might have a little less hair on a comic concept version. The hair is also a stark midnight black compared to the Justice League release, which was more of a dark, almost chestnut brown. Of course, the outfits also do change between the two releases. The Wonder Woman here from the Justice League release was all more muted in colors. The gold, the red, and the blue are all more muted to the brighter contrast that she has on the comic concept. Interestingly also, as well, is that the Wonder Woman from Justice League also had the harness that wrapped around her shoulder to hold her sword, whereas the comic concept version, they left that out completely. But you can really see, though, how the color changes the figure completely by just one being a little bit brighter. Like, this has a lot of cool metallic golds incorporated. And while it was still there with the Justice League release, it's certainly a lot brighter when we get down to the comic concept version. The skirt also does change, where here we would have had the darker gray-based blue, and here we have the brighter blue with some additional stars that have been added there as well. Even there's a lot of changes when you look at her boots. The boots on the Justice League release would have had more gold on the sole and the front, the stripe that ran down the middle from her knee. They've gone completely away from that in favor of all red here in the comic concept version, incorporating some additional white from the knee area all the way down in this single runway of white. And gone completely is the gold that the Justice League release would have had, in favor of all red with white soles on the undersides here. One thing I'm also happy about with the comic concept version is that they used the portrait from the Justice League release of Gal Gadot versus the Batman v Superman. Of course, it would make the most sense. They're going to want to use the newest figure that they have released. So they went with the Justice League release versus the Batman v Superman, but I feel like this one has a closer resemblance to Gal Gadot. Not that the other one didn't, but I do feel like this one fits and looks a little bit more like her. This is, of course, until we get the Hot Toys Gold Armor release of Wonder Woman that I feel will have the strongest likeness of Wonder Woman that we've seen in the films. And hey, one of the good reasons also of picking up this particular figure is that she does have the brighter colors that we've seen so far in the trailer and the pictures of the '84 Wonder Woman sequel. We are getting ourselves the gold armor Wonder Woman, but I don't know if we are actually getting ourselves a regular outfit Wonder Woman. If that's not the case, there's all the more reasoning why you'd want to be picking up this one, because as I said, it's got the brighter colors that she has in that film versus the muted colors that we've seen her wearing before. Let's look at the figure's articulation. Her head hinges down. It also hinges up as well. It can rock back and forth. While I'm doing that, of course, I'm messing up her poor hair. And you can also rotate her head all the way around. Not really sure why you'd want to rotate her head all the way around, but you can do that. Now, here's where limitations start happening. Because of the nature and the material that they used for this skin that overlays all the joints, there's limitations, of course, to what you can actually do to the figure. In a way, it's disappointing because Hot Toys are the more expensive route to go for figures based on comparing it to just regular articulated plastic figures. I mean, they look good, but in some cases, you can't always do a lot with them. So like, for example, you can only really bring the arms out at about a 90-degree angle bend. It's not to say that you couldn't go any further past that point, but the instructions do stress that you don't want to go any more further past that point because you could cause damage to the joints, and you can most definitely cause damage to this skin as well. The same thing applies also when you are moving the arms forward. Just do it in a very slow fashion. I believe the arms can go forward at an 80-degree angle bend, and they can go 60 degrees bending backwards. But again, while you're doing this, keeping in mind, again, especially things like the armpit area, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is the potential, and it hasn't happened so far, where I feel like if you are pulling the arm too frantically out, further forward or further back than what it really belongs to be, you could start developing little stress lines. And I don't feel that that's a stress line just yet, but there's certainly a potential of that causing a damage down the road. Same thing also applies when you are bending the elbow. This is sort of one of those figures where, unfortunately, you have to kind of keep her in a museum pose. Anything beyond that point, if you're putting her in some extreme dynamic poses, there's possibilities, of course, out there. I've seen people take pictures of their Wonder Woman in real action poses. But the problem is, when you are bending like the elbow, for example, if you leave that arm bent for too long of a period of time, you're going to start leaving behind those little wrinkled crease lines. And you may even run the risk of having that rubber start splitting on you, which is definitely not the route that you want to be going. The hands, of course, rotate all the way around. Sometimes they'll pop off their joints. That doesn't seem to be the case right now. She does have a swivel on the bicep. Again, all of this is very limited with what you can actually do with her. The legs split out. Now, this is one thing where you have a little bit more afforded luxury of what you can actually do with the legs. Being that, as you can kind of see how they're ball jointed in place, you allow for good splits on the legs, and you can move the legs forward and back with a much more ease to them than what you could actually with the arms. You can also bend the knee, but again, you want to just be really careful, and you really wouldn't want to keep this in any permanent pose like that, because again, it's going to cause damage. And then down below, she does have foot articulation, and I like the way that they've done this, where they've kept the feet, like with the Justice League release, as a separate piece. That means when you are rotating the feet back and forth, thing you want to be careful of is one thing I've almost just did there. See these back sections, these little flaps that stick down and almost cover over her ankles? When you are rotating the feet, just be mindful of where those are when you rotate them back. You don't want to get them hooked in there and result in breaking these right off. So like I said, she does have foot articulation, but again, there's all these things that you really want to be careful of when holding and posing Wonder Woman for yourself. She's a great looking figure, but she has certainly limitations by simply just the route that Hot Toys went with this figure release by putting her encapsulated in this rubber skin. It does give her a seamless look, which is fine and good, but the problem is, again, when it comes to displaying her, you're sadly probably not going to want to do much more than what you're looking at right now. Again, you have the option of having her wielding the sword and wielding the shield, but I would wield those both in cases where the arms are still angled out like this. You don't want to bring the arms too far forward and too far back, because again, you're going to be causing damage and stress to that rubber skin that they put over top of her body. Having already picked up the Batman v Superman Wonder Woman and its follow-up, the Justice League Wonder Woman, both from Hot Toys, I honestly had no desired interest then to fork over the funds and get yet another Justice League Wonder Woman, which is basically what this one is, with a brighter comic color scheme. It was an easy pass for me. What I think of when I want to pick up these figures for myself is how do they look like their movie counterparts. This one is a lot brighter than her movie counterpart, so again, it was a total pass for me. Fast forward, though, several years later, and we now have trailers and images of what Gal Gadot is sporting in the new '84 Wonder Woman sequel, and of course she's sporting bright colors like what we see here with the comic concept version. If we don't ever get the chance to get another Wonder Woman in this costume, and we only are going to be getting ourselves the gold armor Wonder Woman, which we already know Hot Toys has released images for, all the more reasoning I feel to go back and pick up the comic version of her, the one that we looked at in this review, and have her as the substitute for the 84 Wonder Woman. I mean, she's got the perfect color scheme. Short of the stars on her skirt, which I don't think the 84 Wonder Woman would be sporting, all the bright colors that we're seeing here on this figure seems to be the case also on the 84 Wonder Woman costume as well. And maybe, if just maybe, we do get ourselves an alternate head portrait, which I think we are getting with the gold armor Wonder Woman. I'm sure the ball joints are exactly the same. You simply could just pop it off the body on this one and replace it with the head sculpt that comes with the gold armor Wonder Woman, because I'm really liking the head portrait that's going to be coming out with that figure release. Either way, though, what I didn't think I wanted initially in my collection, the more and more I look at it, the more I love the bright color scheme that the comic concept Wonder Woman actually has here. It's a nice brighter contrast to, of course, those broodier colors that we saw in the other Wonder Woman, and she's sporting black hair, which I think works really well on the head sculpt of Gal Gadot. If you are in the market, like maybe in same situation as myself, who passed on this one initially, and maybe later on you're starting to second guess your choices, your decisions, and maybe even based on this review that's maybe helped you along those ways. If you do decide now that you would like to add the comic concept Wonder Woman to your own collection, you can head on over to Zavvi, where I got this figure for myself. Zavvi has a whole list and whole ton of 6-scale figures at your purchasing disposal, and they also sell a whole bunch of figures like NECA and Marvel Legends and other things like that. If you are looking to add this one to your collection as well as some other things over there, you can use the coupon code of TRS15. Or just remember the review spot 15, and you can save 15% off your purchase. If you were kind of on the fence like myself initially as to whether you really want to add this one to your collection, a good way to get it is, like I said, you can head on over to Zavvi and save 15% off your purchase. Overall, again, I really like the look of this figure. I'm not really sure if I want to display her with the cape. It is very tempting, but the last thing I certainly don't want to have is a stain around her neck, which, as you can see, was unfortunately the case with my Batman v Superman Wonder Woman, where I must have just left the cloak sitting against her face and I've got a little bit of smudging on her nose. I'm going to see if I can actually fix that up. In the meantime, today we were having a look at the Hot Toys Justice League Wonder Woman concept comic. I think I swapped that around. Comic concept Wonder Woman 6-scale figure. All the things you really liked about the Justice League Wonder Woman, just in a much brighter color scheme. Let me know down below what you guys think of this figure. Also, if you are new to this channel and liking the content that you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below, turning the bell notification on, and staying tuned, because there's going to be a lot of videos coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.